So you're listening to another episode of the Stoic Squeeze podcast, and it's been a minute here, but we're in the middle of November right now, and every single year I work really hard to grow this heroic mustache, just so if we do a podcast that month, I could just be confident that I have the best facial hair. But today, my guest is definitely going to take that award. We have one of my friends. His name is DeFranco, and he goes by Bear, and he's a former Marine, champion Wisconsin powerlifter, a current nurse, counsels veterans, and just overall good guy. So welcome to the podcast, Bear. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I missed a couple of things. Gym owner. What else? What else did we miss?
Yeah.
So
Pretty awesome resume.
Yeah, yeah. Dad of four girls, right? All girls.
Girls, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That'll keep your hands
So
full.
yeah, tell us a little bit about you. We usually go a little bit with the bio with our guests.
Sure. Well, I'm 39. I was born and raised in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Grew up next to Oliver.
Sleepy little town called Kenosha,
quiet
right?
Little town.
No one's ever heard of it.
Yeah. So grew up right next to Oliver's Bakery. Joined the Marine Corps at 18. I did 4 years active, 4 years reserves. I went to Iraq 03, 04. Got out, got on the fire department. Actually got my paramedic license. I've been a paramedic now for 15 years. I still hold my paramedic license. I got my nursing license 7 years ago because, fun fact, as a paramedic, I got my associate's degrees. And with the associate's degree in paramedic, I had all my prereqs done for nursing already. I just had to do the clinicals. So I did, and I got my nursing license. And I get paid more money to sleep in my own bed at night now. So it's like, it's a win-win. Don't get me wrong, I love being a paramedic. If the pay was better, I'd be doing that full-time because I loved it. But I got into weightlifting because in the Marine Corps, that's all you do is work out. So I kept with the gym. It started as therapy, so I used it as therapy. It was effective, very effective, still is to this day. And I used to lift at YMCA Mount Pleasant, the sealed air facility. And I had a friend of mine named Patrick Little. I'd see him lifting in there. And he asked me one day if I ever competed. And I said, no, I've never competed. And he said, well, you probably should with the weights you're lifting. Because I didn't know if I was lifting a lot or not. But apparently it was a pretty decent amount. So I did, just for the heck of it. I joined a competition, the State Fair event. It was 6 years ago, 5 years. I signed up 6 years, 7 years. Holy cow, I'm old. But I signed up.
I'd like to nail down that year because that might have been the same year that my wife she competed in a fitness competition at State Fair
I'll grab the trophy.
like 5 or 6 years ago.
I'll grab the trophy when we're done here. Because
Yeah,
I'll
have to look up the year, Nicole. Nice.
Yeah, I took second place, and that was the first competition I did, and I was hooked. So I've been doing competitions ever since. And 3 years ago, my friend Alex Ursing, who started Mount Sinai Gym, the original owner that carries it to this day, and a couple of us helped out and kind of got into it with him. And he kind of walked me into the Strongman competitions. I always follow Strongman. Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, Nick Best, all those guys. I've been following them forever because I like lifting heavy stuff, and they lift heavy stuff, and it's fun heavy stuff. So he's like, "Hey, come on down. Let's." He was actually hosting. He was emceeing the State Fair event. So
It must have been the
Lewis
same
told
year,
me.
Bear. Must have been
Yeah.
the same
Because-
year.
Because when I first did podcasts before on the Spartan Brothers podcast with Alex and then with Alex and you, Lewis was like, I know that guy. Like when he was hosting the State Fair when Nicole was there, so it's got to be the same year.
That's pretty
Unless
funny.
he hosted every year, but
he's done it 3 years, but that was the first year. No, maybe he didn't.
Okay.
I can't remember, but that's how I met him originally. We've been close friends ever since. But he talked with me, and like I said, he's like, hey, come over and compete, do a strongman competition, and I did, and I have excelled at strongman because I have an amazing powerlifting foundation, and I got into strongman, and it's so much fun, and I'm super good at using my body to my advantage because I am a large frame guy. So when it comes to like lifting cars and throwing rocks and lifting logs and, you know, doing the Conan's wheel and all that stuff, it's fun, and I'm strong, and I know how to use my body mechanics thanks to the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So I got really good at that too. So it's been fun.
When I was in high school, I used to watch, the days I stayed home sick from school, I used to pretty much watch the strongman competitions with Arnold, or even later Samuel Magnuson, I think was his name.
Yeah.
Some of the old school guys, and a lot of the big bodybuilders got into it too for a little bit. That was some of the best television I used. Yeah, dude, he was really strong. Could not believe how strong he was.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my first experience watching that stuff. I knew that I'd never, I'm smaller frame, so that wasn't a sport for me, but it was always cool to see that. And then, the guys you just mentioned of today, the Eddie Halls of the world and stuff, it's pretty cool to watch.
I follow Eddie Hall a lot with his lifting, and the reason why I have followed him is because him and I have a very similar build, very similar physique. His body structure and mine are really close. I think he's 2 inches. I think he's 6'2", if I'm not mistaken. I'm 6 foot even.
Okay.
So he's got 2 inches on me. But other than that, we're damn near identical. So I follow his lifting. I always have, just because, like I said, he's obviously super successful. He won World's Strongest Man 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously he's super successful. So like I said, I've followed him with his lifting.
Is he still going to box the mountain? Do you know?
He's got a thing out right now. It's funny because he posted a video to Thor saying, "Hey, let's get this fight going." Because originally they had the fight scheduled. Eddie Hall tore his bicep. So
that's what it was. Okay,
he attached his bicep, so he had to actually have it surgically reattached. So Devin Lariat took the fight with Thor. Devin Lariat's a world champion arm wrestler.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. Yeah. I saw the highlights of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, it was entertaining. Devin Lariat, obviously, he took it short notice. He didn't have the training time that Thor's had. So he was outmatched, as far as skill goes. But Devin Lariat's just one tough SOB. He's an older guy. I think he's late 40s. But yeah, he's just one tough dude. But yeah, he took the fight short notice, and since then, I think a couple weeks ago, Eddie Hall put out a video saying, "All right, Thor, let's get this fight going. I'm healed."
What's the specs on Eddie Hall? Do you know?
He is
height, weight.
I knew what he was. It was 300 and I think he's 360 pounds right now, or 350 pounds right now. But when he won World's Strongest Man, he was 417 pounds. And that was 2015.
Wow, crazy.
And I'm pretty sure
I thought he leaned up.
Yeah, he did. He's 350. And he has
a lean 350. Got it.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
I was 350 once upon a time, and I'm sure I look the same as him.
Right.
But he looked pretty cut though. When he's now that he's more lean, I've seen pictures. He's pretty cut up.
Yeah, he's about 70 pounds lighter now. He might be in the 340s. I'd have to look that up. I know he's right around there.
Either way, what a monster.
Oh,
yeah.
God, he's just, big boy. You know who was really cool that I met recently?
Dude, you guys should start a powerlifting commentary podcast.
It'd be awesome.
You're gonna love this.
I don't know who any of these guys are, but
I've watched so many old school strongman stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
You know who owns the world record bench press right now, don't you?
Who?
I think
so.
we talked about it the last time I talked, but I forgot.
A month
But
ago.
it was recently set,
Maybe a month and a half ago, I went down to Wrigley Field to watch Julius Maddox attempt 800-pound bench press. He currently holds the world record at 774 pounds for up bench.
Insanity.
Yeah, so I went down.
That is just.
I met him, and talk about a monster of a man. This dude's 6'4". He weighed in at 445 pounds on that day,
Oh my
and that was a
God.
month and a half ago. he is
6'4". That's bad though, right? Like, isn't that like harder to bench then when you're that tall?
a little bit. It gets harder as the longer your arms are, the more distance you have to travel. But he makes up for it in mass. I mean, he is just massive man. 400, like I said, 445 pounds.
Insane.
Just
Insane.
massive. But
I'm gonna brag for a second about my wife, but her state record for bench, I believe, is 226.
Outstanding.
And she's 5'9", $160, something like that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's her most impressive lift.
Is it?
How much did she beat the record by?
She crushed it. Blew it out of the water. I can't remember what for some reason women in bench, it's not usually a strongest lift, but it just ended up being my wife's strongest lift. You know, she crushes it, and she has long limbs. Very weird.
Wow, she's just a natural bencher then.
And for anyone who doesn't know, she's my first cousin, so I obviously have that DNA. So
exactly. Yep. I think you maxed yours out though.
I think the most I've ever benched in my life was back in high school. Right after high school, it was 225 would be my last. That's 2 plates, right, on each side.
Yep.
Or that's whatever 2 plates is. So that's my max.
Yeah.
You just qualified on being a man, like right there. So
barely.
So Bear, you mentioned that. First of all, that's awesome that you got into powerlifting, and we were talking about your successes before we started here. You mentioned that it's kind of like your therapy. Can you explain that a little bit? And I resonated when you said that, because to me, lifting, it's part of my joy for me, you know, and all the things that I get from lifting. But what is it for you?
Well, what it is, like I said, it started. That's the reason why I kept with it, is because. The reason why I started it initially too is because it's good therapy. Because when I originally got out of the Marine Corps, you fight bouts of anxiety and depression, and you go through highs and lows, and it's a roller coaster ride. So it gets hard to manage, because when you're done, they're done with you. You know, when you get out, that's it. You're out and you're done. They're like, okay, see you later. We enjoyed you. We're moving on. So they don't give you there's no out processing where they walk you through what to expect, you know, how to manage your emotions, you know, how to manage things that you saw or did. They kind of like, okay, well, you did your service, your contract's up, you're done, see you later. There's the door. So I found that I leaned on a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms for a long time. I drank to try and help, fill up some of these voids of anxiety and depression, and you miss a lot of the camaraderie and everything else. Ultimately, I started getting into lifting, and I felt that took care of a lot of that for me. It took care of a lot of the anxiety and the stress and the depression, because you get the release of endorphins when you lift or work out, so that really helped. And I found that the more I lifted, the more it helped, which I think is what has made me a successful lifter. It's just the fact that I recognize that the more I lift, the more it helps, mental health wise. Physically, I'm sure my body ain't gonna like being 15, 20 years, but I could still work out, you know what I mean? I know that I'd still be able to do something, and that no matter what you're capable of lifting something is better than lifting nothing, and it still will help, and to this day, when I would go through, even now, when I go through injuries, I had to have a surgery a while back. I had to get a sinorhinoplasty. I couldn't lift at all, and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to not be able to go to the gym and lift for a while, so this is really going to start messing with my mental health. And I find now that even if I just go to the gym and sit there, it helps, because my body thinks that I'm conditioned to myself to feel that, okay, I'm at the gym, so obviously we can go ahead and have the endorphin release or a decrease in anxiety or stress. So even just going there helps, just showing up. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise, going through that. that surgery that I was worried about. Like, oh man, this is going to deteriorate me. And now, even just going down there, like I said, I've conditioned myself to the point where if I just show up at the gym, it helps with my mental health. And that's a big part for me. And like I said, it's the therapy. And that's what it does. It helps me. It helps me get through that. We don't have to lean on unhealthy coping mechanisms because, for a while it was, hey, do you have a problem with this? Or do you have a problem with that? And it was never like a substance problem. It was a mental health problem with PTSD or depression or anxiety. And like I said, the weightlifting helps with those to manage it. So it eliminates the need for any other coping.
So let's go back, and that's an incredible story, and I think you're way ahead of the curve on that, because I think a lot of people are talking about that more, how it is like one of the best mechanisms to cope, especially with like depression and stress. And for a former vet like yourself who was in active duty during the thick of the Iraq War as a Marine, I mean, you're dealing with some of the most stress in like our modern world here. You went to the Marine right out of high school then? The Marines?
Right out of high school.
And what year did you graduate?
2000.
Okay, so what was like high school beer like? Obviously, you went into the Marine Corps like during a war, so
No,
I'm
it was
guessing
before
you were already
started,
into
actually.
lifting and such. And was it?
Because it was when 9/11 was 2001. So this
Yeah.
was right before, a year before 9/11.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I was into sports. In school I played football, wrestling, track, and I wanted to go to college, and I actually wanted to be a walk-on because I did the UW Wisconsin training camp. I actually met Coach Alvarez.
For Madison?
I met Barry
Nice.
Alvarez.
Barry Alvarez, yeah.
Ron Dane was actually one of the instructors there when I went through that training course, that camp. So it was pretty cool.
He won the Heisman, right?
Yeah, Ron Dane. So he was one of the trainers there when we went through the camp. But I went through, met Coach Alvarez, and I'm like, okay, I graduate. I'm going to go to UW Madison to play football. But I couldn't get a scholarship. Didn't qualify for a scholarship, and we couldn't afford the college. So my thought process was, I'll join the military and they'll pay for it. Well, I never went to Madison. But I did go to the military, that's for sure. But yeah, that was my thought process. I'll join the Marine Corps. They'll pay for me to go to college, and then I'll be able to play football, and life will be great. I'll be in the NFL. It'll be wonderful. Nope.
So you were, I mean, how big were you right out of high school?
285 pounds. I was 285 when I graduated. So it was...
And how tall are you?
6 foot.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right there for linemen. A little bit undersized, honestly, for that division, but like pretty. 20 more pounds and you would have been a starter as a freshman. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, I was 285 when I graduated. The heaviest I was 315 actually the start of my senior year. But when I graduated, I dropped a bunch of weight because I was in wrestling. So we had to drop a ton of weight for wrestling. And I never put it back on after wrestling season because football was done. So I weighed, like I said, I weighed 285 when I graduated. But I started at 315 that year, so I could have got back up there and maintained it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fun part was when I made the decision to join the Marine Corps, they have height and weight standards. I don't know if you're aware of this, but they have height and weight standards. And 285 pounds was about 65 pounds too heavy for them. So they wanted me at underneath 220 pounds. So I had to lose 65 pounds in order to go to boot camp if that's what I wanted to do. So it made my commitment. I took the summer and I graduated in June. I went to boot camp by November, lost 65 pounds in that amount of time.
From 280?
Yep, from 285 down to 217 was the day I left.
Wow. So tell us about that. How'd you do that?
Diet. I did the Cleveland Clinic diet, actually.
What's that?
It's a horrible. Don't look that up. If anybody's listening, don't Google that. Obviously, people listen. Whoever's listening, don't look that up. You can look it up, but don't follow it. It's horrible. It's horrible.
I don't know, man. You might
like,
be the poster boy for the Cleveland Clinic diet. Like, Marine, that works 65 pounds. There we go.
Making me sweat just
Hoorah.
bringing it up. Yeah, but it was a horrible diet. It involved, like 1 tablespoon of peanut butter for breakfast with a half a banana and a stick of asparagus or something. It was weird.
I just loved like the arbitrariness. It's not
specifically
like peanut butter for protein, half a banana for potassium,
And then there's 1 piece of
celery because it cures cancer.
right.
Just juice it.
And then it's 1
asparagus because they just want your piss to smell weird. They just throw it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just to mess with you. That's all that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was 1 piece of dry white toast.
What the hell?
Dry.
I'm saying it was weird. And I dropped a bunch of weight.
I
But
guess
like
so.
I said,
Yeah.
nobody, everyone listening, don't go do the diet. Do not get on the Cleveland Clinic diet. Don't do it. But yeah, I did that and I ran every day. So I ran and I took the summer. I took a month and a half and went to Oklahoma. Also in the middle of July. July through August, so it was super hot, and I got a job working for a guy outside as a laborer, and I sweat all day. So I would be outside working, doing laboring, digging holes, whatever, because he was a welder, so I was his laborer. So I did that, sweating all day, and then I would run as soon as I got back, home at the end of the day, and then I'd be on this stupid diet, which was horrible.
So here's the thing, like, because obviously you know about my weight loss and like with everything that I've learned, basically one of the problematic things with extreme weight loss is the muscle mass that you lose. So this will be an interesting thing because you were actually really strong before that. What were your lifts like before and after that weight loss? Do you remember? And honestly, like, you're probably, because you were a Marine and you said that you still put up pretty good numbers. So how do you explain that, Lewis? He lost all that weight and still
Some people are gifted, my man. I don't think we got those genes.
No, so what were the numbers? Do you remember? Do you remember like any of the differences between lifting that period?
Because I know I used to squat 525 was actually my squat, my heaviest squat when I was in high school. And it was crazy because I squatted over 500 pounds as a senior in high school. So
that's insane.
That was a big deal. And I just remember.
Really quick. We went to high school with Ryan Deem. He was a senior when we were freshmen. And he played for the Indianapolis Colts for many years, made multiple Pro Bowls on the Peyton Manning teams. And he was on the board because we were like kind of a wrestling factory at our school, and later even like really good football teams after we graduated. But anyways, do you remember the numbers that he put up, Lewis? Because I'm pretty sure his bench was something ridiculous, like 360 pounds in high school.
He was a huge man already by the time he was a senior. So, yeah, I don't remember the numbers.
And I think he had the squat record and stuff, too, and he was... But, I've never heard 500 pounds for a high school kid, Lewis.
Yeah.
That was
So how did your numbers change then after the weight loss?
All right, so what was your bench in high school?
My bench I benched 315, and I remember that because I weighed 315 at the start of the senior year. So I just remember that I was able to bench my body weight from the start of that year.
Yeah, and that's savage for a high school kid, too.
So 315 as a defensive lineman that did weightlifting. It wasn't unheard of. And what was I don't think I deadlifted at all. We didn't deadlift at all when I was in high school. It was
probably more power cleans back then.
It was a lot of power cleans because you needed a lot of the explosive power. So it was a lot of we did clean and press actually. Clean and presses, bench presses, squats. Those were the big ones. And then all the
deadlift I know is really popular now, but we're about the same age. I don't remember deadlifting back then at all. Yeah. I know everyone does it now, or it's really popular now, but.
Yeah.
So how did your lifts change after the weight loss? Did your lifts go down?
Honestly, I didn't really go do much weightlifting after the weight loss before I went to boot camp. So I couldn't tell
It's hard to
yeah,
tell.
it was
Yeah.
hard to tell. I didn't have the weights to base it on. I just had how I felt. And how I felt like I was still pretty close to the same strength. But I know I lost some. I know I did. It wasn't much, but I was still able, because I was a laborer, so I was able to move heavy stuff when I was down working, doing, lifting iron and, pulling stumps out or whatever it was. So I was still able to move a lot of heavy stuff that even the guy I was laboring for couldn't lift. So I mean, I was still strong. I don't have the squat and bench numbers to compare it to because I didn't do it before I left. But I know when I got out of boot camp, my strength was way down, but my endurance was insane. Like, I was able to run obstacle course. I could run 12 miles nonstop without stopping, and then take a 100-pound pack and go up a hill, and then jump a wall, and then climb a rope, and then fireman's carry someone up another hill. It was just that kind of endurance was just through the roof. So I know there was a lot of that.
So were you stronger than your peers? Like, did you guys have strength competitions, and were you at the top?
I was
or
for sure stronger.
Okay.
Because, I mean, when we were doing fireman's carries, that was the biggest telltale. Because you pretty much do a mini squat when you do a fireman's carry and pick someone up. And when you're going uphill with someone on your shoulders, when you're carrying them, it's a lot of lower body. It's all legs, quads, and hams. And I would excel on that. I'd take the biggest guy with me, and I wouldn't have a problem. So I was definitely further ahead of my peers when it came to strength in the Marine Corps, which again is why I started lifting before I even got out, just because a lot of the guys would be like, hey, let's go to the gym, dude, I want to lift with you, because we always knew that we were told you either fight or work out with someone that's better or stronger than you. That's how you get better. So the guys that wanted to go to the gym, they knew that I was strong. They knew that I had the background, that I was in football and we did weight training. So they're like, let's go to the gym. And that's what really got me started with the weight training. And then I learned a lot of stuff from a lot of the guys. So we had some old gunnery sergeants that were OG powerlifters, and we learned some stuff from them when I was lifting. I'm, 19 years old. I got this, 40-year-old crusty gunnery sergeant. It's like, oh, I'm going to show you how to do this squat the right way. Get over here, young buck, And it's like, yeah, you learn some OG stuff, man.
Hey, that stuff worked.
I'm telling you, boy, did it ever. Yeah, so that really.
They might have not known the reasoning behind it, but some of that old school stuff, produced a lot of strong people. So
what's interesting about the sport and powerlifting and everything is it hasn't been around for a while. When we were, I forgot his name. I'm going to apologize. It was the second guest we had, Lewis.
Jason Miller?
Yeah, Dr. Jason Miller is telling us the history of powerlifting and stuff, and, just hasn't even been around that long, really. It's a modern thing, and look at how far it's come, so quickly. Now it's just so many people doing it, and, so many benefits that we're learning, and everything Lewis and I have learned is basically building muscle is king. It trumps pretty much everything else comes to overall health, so...
even more so than building muscle, strength is king. Is like I mentioned before, Bear. We were talking before we started recording here, and I'm a believer more than ever that and muscle's right there. Of course, you're gonna get stronger. You build muscle, but strength is king to longevity and functioning at an older age as we get older and stuff. Grip strength, leg strength, all that stuff. So. Pretty fascinating. If anyone asks me, how do you be healthy? The first thing I say, go lift. That is the first thing you should go figure out how to do is go start lifting. So, yep. Hey, over at Mount Sinai, they what's that?
I was gonna off of that same line there. Whenever I take new clients in, I just took another one in this past Monday. I had a brand new client, and she, I said, "What are your goals?" That's the first thing I asked her. I said, "What are your goals?" Because when they come in and they want to learn how to weightlift, especially powerlifting, I'm the guy. So I asked them, "What are their goals?" She says, her goals are she wants to build strength, but she wants to take off, like she wants to tone up. She's like, "I don't know if I need to do a bunch of cardio," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to stop you right there," because the first thing I tell them, I said, if you want to burn calories, the first thing you need is more muscle, because the more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn. So you can quit with the cardio. You do your cardio, but you do that at the end of your workout. You lift your weights first, because that's key. Because the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. And that's why you get these guys that are, and I could talk to you about diet too. And I know I was talking with you a little bit, Dimitri, about like my diet and how many calories I do.
Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it because we got it. I mean, we haven't even talked about your current numbers and where you're at and like how, but it's hard to maintain once you get to the level that you're at. It's just like if people realize what it entails.
We're talking about Eddie Hall and him being 417 pounds when he won the world's strongest man. His diet, he was eating 18,000 calories in one day. But you have to, because you burn so much.
That's the highest number I've ever heard.
That's insane. It was insane. Like 18,000 calories he did in one day. Like that takes a lot of work to shovel that many calories in your face.
And not as fun as it sounds.
No, God.
Oh, it's horrible.
People are like, "Oh yeah, you can just eat a bunch of apple pies." No, you got to do it clean still.
Yeah,
and good luck. Like I'll take the fattest person I know, try to eat 18,000 calories worth of apple pies, and I'll bet they're not going to get there. Like not in a day.
No, like I was telling people, like I'll do 6,000 calories a day when I'm training. When I'm doing my strength training, I'll do between 6,000 and 8,000 a day, depending on where I'm at in the program. And to do that on chicken breasts, sweet potatoes, and green vegetables.
Terrible.
It's
terrible.
I feel the pain for you. That seems harder than lifting the heavy stuff that you lift. Like,
it really is.
And this comes from like fat degenerate person too.
Yeah, it really is. But
so go back to when you're training. Well, you said you have a client comes in and they have their perceptions on what getting healthier is, and a lot of the female population they want to quote tone up or do cardio and things like that. So walk us through what kind of conversations you have with them and what you have them start doing.
So
I think honestly though, like I gotta say really quick, I think they figured it out because obviously with this podcast and stuff, I'm like a late adopter of social media and stuff. But the last 2 years, there's a shift, and all you see is girls lifting weights now.
It's
That's
exploded.
all you see. Nobody runs anymore. It used to be everyone like was on like seriously 2 years ago. Everyone was still going on runs and training for marathons, and now it's squats across the board.
Yep.
Like
no, that's funny.
So
even beauty standards have kind of changed too.
Oh, big time. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm glad they have.
Right. Right.
Oh yeah, no, for real. Like the old beauty standards were terrible.
They
like,
wanted them to have
I mean,
a waist, like,
obviously some people are small frame and whatever, but like when everyone's 100 pounds, it's just ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
Anyways, whatever. Teach their own.
So how I usually start that is kind of like where I was going. As I ask them what their goals are, and this last one, her name's Megan. So I was asking her, and she wants to tone up, lose some fat, but she wants to gain strength, and then like you said, the biggest misconception is they think that they need to pound cardio and eat celery and drink water, and that's it. And I start right there. I'm like, no, I'm just going to tell you right now. There's one thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to eat. We'll change it. We'll work on your diet when we get to that point. But you're going to have to eat. And if you're going to do cardio, it's going to be at the end of your workout, because you need to build muscle. Because the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, like we were just saying. So I start there. Then I start to say, okay, tell me what your limitations are. Do you have any injuries, any history of surgeries that are pertinent, and Then I ask them, allergies, and the nurse in me starts asking, physical assessment questions, So they go through a whole history of, okay, I had back surgery when I was 18. I'm like, okay, so we got to avoid some, some of the compound stuff we might have to avoid, or anything that might be axial loading maybe we can't do. So I just try and figure out what their limitations are. And then I know where we can go. And with every single one of my clients, everyone, I start them all the exact same way. Every single one, I start with the 3 main compound lifts. So you've got bench press, you've got squat, and you've got deadlift. Every single workout is going to revolve around those 3 main compound lifts. And I tell them, they call it a compound lift because you're using multiple muscle groups. And it engages your core on all of them. And then you can do your accessories, which are like if you're going to do triceps or, rhomboids or whatever the case may be, you do your accessories to support your compound lift. So I said, that's how we start. So every single person, I start by showing them a proper bench press technique, proper deadlift technique, sumo or conventional, and I figure out which one they're more comfortable in, and then a proper squatting technique. And once I know that they have the form down, I tell them, look, you're going to have to tweak it. We'll work on it. We're going to tweak it. You're not going to be perfect at it, not till you get to that 1,000 rep mark. And their eyes kind of get big, They're like, holy cow, you just say 1,000 reps? But yeah, I tell every single one of them, when you hit that 1,000 rep mark, then you'll have the form down, but not till you get there. And honestly, if you think
It's really good
about it,
advice.
yeah, honestly, if you think about it, it's really not that unfeasible, because if you're doing, a 5x5 workout, that's 25 reps in one day, so it's 25 reps of your compound exercise in one session.
Mm-hmm.
You do that, 4 times a month, that's 100, times not even a year, you get to that 1,000 mark. You know what I mean? So it's really not that unreasonable. But by that time, you think if you're lifting for 7 or 8 months, that's about the right time where you'll start to figure out, and you've got the form down. So that's kind of where I
Yeah.
I said, once you hit
Repetition's
that 1,000,
key.
Exactly. I said, we're going to do volume. Volume is what you want, especially when you're toning. Like with Megan here, I told her, I said, we're going to work on volume. So get that phrase in your head. Start to love that word volume. You're going to hate it, but love it now. So we're going to do volume. And that's key, because that's where you get those reps in. And that's where you're going to build up all that muscle endurance. You're going to build the muscle. You can build a lot of muscle mass. And a lot of guys are like, well, yeah, but I want to build strength. And I still want to do this. Well, we're still going to do the volume training. What we're going to do, though, is time under tension. Because you do a lot of that time under tension, you're going to start building a lot of that strength. So, I go down the tree with them, and I answer questions as we go. But then that's basically the gist of it. Once I get through those first 3 compound lifts, and I'm like, okay, we got those down. Now, you can work on those on your own when you come into the gym, or you can continue to train with me, and I'll set you up with a program. And we'll get you going, and I'll keep track of your numbers for you. So I give them that option, because everyone that signs up at the gym, you get 2 free training sessions. And the first one that I do, I always show them those 3 main compound lifts, regardless, because I'm a firm believer that every single one of your workouts should revolve around one of those lifts, regardless of what it is.
You ever read Starting Strength? Those books, Starting Strength?
Yes, I have, actually.
Yeah.
I got the online version of it, but I want to get the hard copy.
Yeah, I think I have a hard copy right behind me, but I have the regular version. I got my dad the one for, I guess, older people, which I thought was a really fascinating book. Oh, for 50 and older. I forgot. I have to think of the title, but it was Starting Strength for Seniors or something like that. Because, the senior population, sarcopenia is such a huge problem, the disease of muscle loss. And, my dad's getting older. He's in his 60s, and I've always tried to encourage him to lift. I got him that book, and he's learned a lot. He's starting to be more consistent with it because, that's the key, like we were just talking about. It's just you want to live longer, but you want to be able to move, too and stuff. And it's so important to stay strong. And those lifts that you're talking about are really the foundation of it all.
Yeah,
I had a recent.
They come in.
What's that?
A lot of my patient population are 60
Yeah.
and above. So when they come in and they talk about weight loss and joint pain and sedentary lifestyles, that's the first thing I bring up. I'm like, first and foremost, you got to do something to get you moving. And I always emphasize the weight training, and they get intimidated at first because, they're 60 plus, some of them are 70, and they're like, well, I can't go to the gym and start lifting, pumping irons. And I'm like, well, nobody's telling you got to do a competition or throw 800 pounds on a bench. I'm just saying you got to go grab some dumbbells, do some range of motion exercises, and get those joints moving. That's going to be the key to keeping you moving and above ground. And that's the biggest thing that I start with them. So yeah, that's huge, especially with the aging population, because they get intimidated by it, and they think, well, I'm not young anymore. I'm in my 20s or 30s. I can't do all that. And that's not true at all. You can do anything. You just got to make sure you do what's right for your physique and your age and your body style and your ability. But anybody can do it.
Yeah, it's amazing at any age how much stronger you can get by just starting to lift. Even if you start out with a body squat, it's crazy, and then that turns into more and more weight, just like you said. I follow a couple of people on Instagram. One woman, I think she's in her 70s or something, and she started lifting at 70. And her transformation is insane just by starting to lift and doing those core foundational lifts.
They just had, last month, they just had a lady that got the world record. She got a world record deadlift at 104 years old for her weight class, So she got the Masters 2, obviously. But she just broke a world record. Was it either national or world record? 104.
Sure. That's crazy.
People are going to live to 150 now.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be people for sure living to 150.
Yeah, dogs are going to be like, what are these elves doing?
So, Bear, I was telling you that I used to be a personal trainer, and I help my friends out to this day. I still write workout programs or a nutrition program and stuff. None of them do it, but I still write them, just for fun. But Dee's laughing because he knows how true that is. But
Yep.
I had a recent.
Well, I was laughing at you help your friends.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You write workout plans, and I'm just kidding.
Shout out to Mike Giampa. He's the only one that I think has done my workout plan. I have a recent experience with a neighbor here down the road. Reached out to my wife and I for their son, their son in middle school that essentially is playing football and baseball, wants to learn how to get healthier, and then side note from the parents, we want to help him lose weight too, because he's a little bit on the heavier side. So I said, cool, I'm happy to help, happy to do this, no charge. I just like helping people, especially someone this age, because I put myself in his shoes when I was 13, trying to figure out when I was that age, I wasn't overweight, but I was so small and weak that it was like an embarrassment to go to the gym. I actually convinced my dad to buy me a universal gym in the basement so I could get strong enough to actually go to the middle school and high school gym one day. So on the flip side, though, this kid, the parents were like, hey, we want him to start getting stronger, and can you help him lose weight too? I said, sure. I knew that I wasn't even going to talk about weight loss. I wasn't even going to bring that up. I just wanted the kid to focus on getting stronger, getting into the routine of lifting, and a couple of foundational things about lifting, a couple of foundational things about nutrition, because that's important in getting stronger. Not for the weight loss stuff, but you want to get more protein in, you want to get more vegetables in, and eat your carbs before your workout. If you do that, here's some ideas, a palm's worth of chicken breast at this time or whatever. Start with that, and you'll be on your way. I know by doing that, he's probably going to lose some weight by building that muscle, like you said. It made me think about, Dimitri and I talk often about the obesity epidemic that we're facing as a country, and probably a lot of the globe too at this point. and we keep on talking about what's the best way to get in a calorie deficit so everyone can lose weight and get healthy. And this experience over the past few weeks has made me rethink some of that, to stop talking about losing weight and stop talking about getting in a calorie deficit, and let's just focus on getting stronger and lifting, because everything else I feel like is going to fall into place. And I feel like this conversation needs to start changing. Again, from, this diet works, that diet works, stop eating this, stop eating fat, stop eating carbs. I almost want to forget that stuff. How about start hitting the gym, lift the main movements, and increase your protein? That's it. Do that, like you said, for a year, and then we'll talk about anything else you want to talk about. I feel like this, my gears are turning here from hearing you talk and stuff, and I feel like the conversation needs to change. And you're going to lead it, Bear.
I tell you what, you just hit an amazing point right there.
I honestly, Lewis, that's one of the most eloquent things I've ever heard. That was phenomenal.
Sure.
Well, I hope you're recording this. So.
Yeah. Oh damn! No.
And you hit,
What just happened? What'd I say? No.
Blacked out for a minute.
Yeah. Anyways, so this experience and you talking about this has made me rethink. Possibly, I think we're getting the conversation wrong with people that are trying to lose weight and get healthier. Forget that. Get strong. Everything else is going to fall into place.
For sure. And actually, to go back to one of the things you were just saying, honestly, for me, one of the most important parts of all of it is your protein. And it's so important. I can't stress that enough to people. Because
Agree.
Even with people that are trying to just maintain muscle, if something happens where you can't work out, but if you stop taking that protein, you're going to lose muscle.
Right.
Just taking that protein in is what keeps the muscle there, because muscle needs protein. Protein is the building blocks for all muscle, all cells in your body. So protein is the number one in amino acids. There's your building blocks.
Yeah.
And it should be, if you really want to look at and you get serious about dropping weight by adding muscle, because that's the best way to do it. Like we said, we could beat a dead horse here. So you add muscle, you burn more calories. To do that, you get more protein. Every single person, if you're 200 pounds, you should be getting 200 grams of protein a day. I tell everybody, 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight. That's your rule of thumb. So if you want to put
very
on muscle,
simple to remember and
easy.
Works for almost everybody. Yep.
It doesn't get you too much where you're putting some in the fat stores, but it gets you just what you need to build that muscle density and muscle mass.
A couple of things before I forget. I'm on the protein wagon with you, but protein is also the most filling food. Back to how many chicken breasts do you need to eat 18,000 calories? That's so disgusting to hear, because protein is so filling. On top of it, protein is the worst thing that your body wants to store. It actually doesn't want to store it. Your body wants to store fat, of course, right? If you're in a caloric surplus. And then carbohydrates, you can store so much in your liver and your muscle tissue, and then it will turn to fat too. So those things it'll store and it knows how to store, it's very hard for the human body to store protein. So imagine, exactly what you're saying. Imagine we just focused on the protein intake and lifted, the wonders that it would do for most people. And Dimitri and I'll say this in jest, we argue all the time about, I know, mind blown. We argue all the time about, what's the right diet? Low carb, low fat, high fat, low whatever. I'm seriously done with that conversation after this. It's protein and lifting, and let's figure out the rest. Obviously, vegetables and micronutrients and all that stuff, but forget about focusing so much about getting smaller, right? It's about getting stronger. I think that's the key, man. So good on you to have those conversations and your clients. So tell us more about protein.
Yeah, so Bear, let's go back, because I don't know if you know this, but you're pretty awesome, for real, and not just because your beard's amazing, but
that's just the icing on the cake.
So the podcast called the Stoic Squeeze Podcast, and I don't know how much you know about Stoicism, but me and Lewis came up with that name because we got into Stoicism, and like, how do we like, what is our philosophy in life? How do we get the most out of this crazy life? And you've lived a life like more than most, especially how many people in the modern world actually experience war and stuff like that. So where do your philosophies come from? Like, where did you learn like this stuff about nutrition? Because we have interviewed a bunch of experts at this point. We just and you know what you're saying is exactly what they're saying, and this is a lot of insight for someone like that
It doesn't have the
to
DNA
have.
in it.
Well,
No, but
we've had a lot of
I
people.
mean, it's such a reasonable approach because
Yeah.
there's so many personal trainers out there. There's so much misinformation. There's so much like nonsense, and to like be so spot on with what like we follow a lot of evidence based people. Okay, and Lewis is obsessed with studies, like he says, and we just interviewed Mike Ornsby last month, who's the head of Florida State's nutrition and fitness.
He was the
department.
International Sports Society of Medicine Scientist of the Year. So like his life's work is studying things like protein and stuff, and basically you're saying what he said. So
yeah, and Dr. Jason Miller is a powerlifter himself, and like same stuff. So, and like, no offense, but a lot of times gym personal trainers, which essentially you are more or less, is just feeding you a bunch of nonsense, and you know what I mean. A lot of problems come with that. Like people get injured, don't do it correctly, burn out.
Well, the challenge with personal
stuff.
trainers is the barrier to entry is low. Like I was a personal trainer. I know the classes I took. It was a couple of weekends. I learned a lot, but I went on to learn more stuff on my own, which sounds like is what you do too, Bear, and you do it yourself too. But the barrier to entry is low. A lot of people maintain that low standard.
Yep.
So how are you hitting the nail on the head so much?
For me, honestly, it started as a lot of trial and error. And we can go right back to that Cleveland Clinic diet. It started right there.
Okay. If you want to sponsor us,
man.
Cleveland
You
Clinic,
lost
if you want to
65 pounds
sponsor
of-
us, just it's
I know.
okay. Yeah.
Cleveland Clinic, this man here lost 65 pounds on your diet and became a Marine and a war hero, okay? You need to sponsor him immediately, and let's start a national tour, Bear. Come on.
I need my Cleveland Clinic shirt on. Hang on, let me go change real quick.
That's Mark Hyman, by the way.
I
dude.
need another fad diet to try, so I'm looking this Cleveland Clinic diet up.
No, that's where it started, honestly, is that Cleveland Clinic diet got my wheels turning because it made me think, wow, okay, so I changed my diet, and it affected me this way, and I got more active, and I started doing a lot of outdoor activities, the laboring, so that really got my wheels turning. And then joining the Marine Corps, they send you through the very basics, they say this is what you need to do, and they put you on it, because I went in as a diet private, because I had to make weight, and I just got under that weight to go in, so they kept me as a diet recruit.
What does that mean?
What they do is when you go through boot camp, you wear these white stripes on your shirt, and that shows everybody that you are a diet recruit. So any drill instructor in that chow hall that sees your tray knows by looking at your shirt you're a diet recruit. So if you got something on there that you ain't supposed to have, they're smoking you. They're taking you out back, they're throwing your food away, and they're smoking you. It got, and I'm like, well,
Did it ever happen to
no,
you?
it didn't, because when you go through
Okay.
the chow line, they see, so they know what food they're supposed to put on your tray. But some guys,
I've never heard this before in my life. That's
yeah,
fascinating. Like,
you go through the chow line with this tray, and then you've got the stripes on you.
so what would be prohibited?
Like if you had chicken, you can't have the skin on it. So you got to take the skin off.
Wow.
And you can only have like smaller portions. Like if they had a full spoonful of something, you can only have a half a spoonful. So portion sizes are smaller. You're restricted. You couldn't have any desserts from the dessert table. None of that stuff. So it started like, okay, well, I've got to eat specific foods because I'm over their height and weight standards. Not cool because I can lift a lot more than anybody else here. So, it's all processing. It's a whole lifetime of experiences. But yeah, they would have some guys that would be diet recruits that would never stop being diet recruits because, one, they push themselves as hard. Two, I think when I look back now, I was able to drop more faster because I had more muscle. You know, so looking back now, I'm like, I really did have a lot more muscle, just because of my weight training in high school and everything else. And I'm like, I bet that had something to do with it, you know. And I look back now and I'm like, it did have something to do with it. But they didn't push themselves. And
That's why I lost all that weight fast.
because you got so much
Exactly.
muscle.
Yep.
I'm gonna take it.
But they would have some guys that would sneak food from their friends' trays, you know. They would be like, hey, let me get some of that. Because some of the skinny guys that were like 100 pounds, they're like, they can't eat all their food. And they're on actually double rations. So you get some of these diet recruits would be like, you're not going to eat all that. You're not going to throw that away, are you? No, let me get that. Let me get that. You know, and then you'd get a drill instructor. They would see him and be like, hey. You know, they'd go get them and smoke them, you know. So that started with that. And then going through the Marine Corps, you have Marine Corps, the MCI books. It's basic training books. So you have these different courses that you can take. And I took some nutrition books and I read them, and, you know, you take a little test on them. So you do these MCIs, what they call Marine Corps Institute. So you do these, it's education. So I educated myself on diet, nutrition, sports therapy, those types of things, because it made me mad. Honestly, it made me mad that I had to meet a specific height and weight standard, because I could do more pull-ups than almost anybody else in my platoon. I mean, I had a 19-minute 3-mile run. 19:27 was my fastest 3-mile run.
Wow.
For somebody that is above the height and weight
That's
standard.
blazing, Bear.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you.
Don't get in the way of that.
No. So for someone that's over the height and weight standard, but has almost a perfect PFT, like I legit almost had a perfect PFT. It made me so mad. Like, this shouldn't be. So actually, I think it was 2002, 2003, where I did a lot of pushing, because in my platoon, they wanted me to do this diet thing, and I told my platoon sergeant once, and I said, look, if you can beat me in a PFT, I'll go on whatever diet you want. But if you can't, then don't tell me whatever to do again, you know? So we did. He said, okay, deal. We're doing it. So he set up a PFT, and I smoked him. And when I say I smoked him hard. I smoked them. That was the 19-minute 27.
You think do you know any Marines like currently, or you keep in touch? Like, have they changed? Have they changed the mindset a little bit? Because it seems like that's just they're behind the times at the time. Like, yeah. I would think that now they would want these Superman soldiers like you and have a little more leeway. Like,
they've changed it now, and they changed it when I was in. And I'd like to say it had something to do with me, but I know it did.
There you go.
I know there was a contributing factor, that's for sure. They changed it while I was in, where you could get a waiver. They call it a PFT waiver. So for anybody that's listening that doesn't know, a PFT stands for Performance and Fitness Test. You take these in the Marine Corps. It's mandatory. You have to qualify it. You have to hit a certain number, or you can get kicked out. And you have to pass with a certain number just to graduate boot camp. Well, I've passed with flying colors to graduate boot camp. Like I said, when I was when I got into the fleet, they still had me listed under height and weight restrictions, and I was blowing people away on this PFT. I had a first class PFT, so they had three. You got third class, second class, and first class. First class is the best you can get, and I had first class the whole time, and it blew me away. Like, I can't believe I'm a first class PFT. Yet you're telling me I got to lose weight still. When you got somebody that is a third-class PFT that can do whatever he wants, this don't make no sense to me. Like I said, I told that platoon sergeant, I said, look, I'll make you a deal, because I'm not doing this. You beat me on a PFT, I'll do whatever diet you want me to do, every day, whatever you want. And I said, but if I beat you, I don't want to hear nothing about it. And I smoked them. And it may have been like 6 months after that they changed it, and they included now you have a PFT waiver. So if you have a first class PFT, doesn't matter what your height and weight is. So they've eliminated that. As long as you've got that first class PFT. If you got a second or third class, then well, you got to change some stuff, you know. So yeah, it started.
Then you start eating the celery and the spoonful of peanut butter.
And Beets. Beets was another one that they had on that Cleveland Clinic diet. I'm telling you, like raw beets, canned beets. One.
Yeah, because beets, they're like good for like one specific thing. They give you a little bit. They like cherry picked every study ever,
like
and like this is exactly what you're gonna eat, and it comes to 800 calories a day. I wonder how you lost weight.
It was like you can have 1/4 spoonful of a raw canned beet. It's like, come on, get out of here. That was another thing. Yeah. Well, Cleveland Clinic. It'd be the death of me.
So, were you a good student?
I was, yeah.
In high school?
Yeah, I was. I had a 3.7.
Okay.
I graduated with 3.7.
Yeah.
So I was trying to push for an academic scholarship.
Look at this guy, Lewis. He was going and researching and like learning on his own before the internet. Like,
For real.
Yeah, it means you probably have to go to the library.
I had a 92 on my ASVAB.
I didn't even know people knew how to do it back then. Like, we barely know how to do it now.
I had a 92 on my ASVAB. So when you take, you got to take this ASVAB, and I can't remember what it stands for, but it's an entrance exam that tells them how smart you are. So you have to pass with a certain number just to get in, and then depending on what job you want, you have to have a higher number than whatever. And with my Asvab score, I qualified for every job the Marine Corps had to offer. You needed I think it was a 30 just to enter, or else you couldn't get in. And I had a 92 on my Asvab, which, I mean, like I said, I could have done any job they had to offer, but I did a combat engineer because I wanted to blow stuff up. So that's what I did. And business was booming, I tell you that.
The only other vet that the only other vet we've interviewed is my buddy Chad, and he was in the Army, but he's in artillery, and he served in Afghanistan. So that's the job to get if you're going over there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I started as a combat engineer, but then in 2003, when we went to Iraq, we didn't know about the IED population, so we heard about these IEDs, which are improvised explosive devices for anyone that didn't know. So we were unaware of what IEDs were and how many of them there were. So EOD are explosive ordnance disposal personnel. They are, their sole purpose in life, their sole job is explosives. And in 2000,
And that's like what the Hurt Locker is about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is, a Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
That's what that movie was.
That's a great movie. Like,
So when we went there in 2003, we only had X amount of EOD personnel because we didn't know how many IEDs. We didn't have any clue about the IED population. But once we learned, the Marine Corps said, well, we're going to need some of you combat engineers because that was part of our job as a combat engineer was explosive demolition. So the Marine Corps said, we're going to need some of you engineers to go work with EOD. And I went over there and I stuck there. And that's what I did, so I worked with EOD. I did a lot. And that's what I did almost the whole rest of my contract, other than going to Quantico and getting certified as a Marine Corps martial arts instructor. That was fun. But like I said, the EOD was what I did most of the time. I did some combat engineer stuff that was fun, building bridges. That was pretty cool. But like I said, the explosives, man, that was all I did. Yeah. So nutrition. So learned a lot of that in the Marine Corps because I did a lot of MCIs that were nutrition based, health and fitness, nutrition, diet.
and this was just like,
on my own.
what was the driving factor for you to go seek this information?
Driving factor, honestly, was just me being mad that I had to be under height and weight restrictions because of my weight. And even though I had first-class PFT, it drove me nuts. I didn't understand it. So I wanted to learn more about health, fitness, diet, all that, because I didn't want to have to do all this nonsense about, taking the skin off of your chicken every time you eat. And I'm like, I don't want to have to do
Yeah, I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Like,
that. So I I just wanted to learn more about it. I guess
That's definitely old food pyramid stuff. Too much fat in it.
Yeah.
Like, for real. It's 100% what that was. Like,
it's like when somebody comes at me with something that I don't understand, but they try and use it against me. Now I'm going to go learn about it, and I'm going to learn everything there is to know about it. And that's kind of what happened there. You know, as they came at me with the whole height and weight thing and the diet stuff, and I didn't know anything about it. My whole experience with diet was the Cleveland Clinic diet. So it made me want to learn everything about diet. Like I can't have to go back to that. There's no way I'm going back to that diet. So I'm like, I got to know what else there is. So I taught myself, and I started, researching.
So what's your diet like today as a power lifter? What's changed? What's a typical day of eating for you when you're in competition or preparing for a competition?
So a typical day for me consists of 6 meals. So I have 6 meals, and meal 1 is the only one that's different. Meal 1, the first meal of the day. So that would be a bowl of cream of wheat or a bowl of oatmeal, and then I will have 4 fried eggs, 2 bananas, and my protein shake. So I have a Hexapro protein shake in the morning, and that's a
Ooh,
this
those
is
are
meal
good.
1 of 6?
Yep, that's meal 1 of 6, and that's about
What time's that at?
usually about 6:30, about 6:30 or 7, somewhere in there.
Did you used to go to that supplement place in Kenosha? Can't think of it. It's not there anymore.
The supplement warehouse.
Well, Supplement Warehouse. That place was awesome back
Yes.
in
Oak Creek. Oh, I was in Oak Creek.
That was in Oak Creek. I used to live in Oak Creek, and I used to
Me too.
pick up my stuff from there. That was the best known secret ever. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
There was a little place here in Kenosha that sold supplements, and that was the first time I came across Hexapro. You just reminded me of that. I can't think of the guy's name.
Lewis was also a former manager at GNC for many years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I managed a GNC for about 5-6 years. Yep.
So Lewis is he's also a huge skeptic on supplements and stuff in general.
Most of them.
And,
protein.
yeah,
Protein
so
shake.
for him to like one,
Well, protein shakes I don't consider a supplement. That's a food.
Yeah.
It's literally food.
that's what Hexapro is.
Hexapro is a
protein shake.
brand of protein shakes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You just reminded me that I've tried that brand before and I liked it. So yeah. Anyways,
I like it a lot because it's one.
Yeah.
I use 2 of them, and they're both. I get them from Sports Nutrition King, actually, right here in Racine.
Okay.
You're right where you guys' old restaurant, the Sparty's was right there.
Is it
The
right there?
laundromat, It's right next to that laundromat there.
Didn't even know. Okay.
It hasn't been there too long. It's a new location.
What's the owner's name?
Was Dave. Dave was the original owner. I
Okay.
don't know who it is now. I want to say Tim.
Okay.
I can't.
Is it the Dave they used to train with Lewis?
No, this one.
No, I don't
he
think
was a
so,
retired
but-
cop,
Okay.
the guy that started.
I think I know that. He used to have one, and that's the place I was thinking of. I'm almost positive that's the same place that he used to have in Kenosha.
Could be for sure because I know there's more than one, and he's a retired police officer. And then when he retired, that's what he did is he opened up these nutrition centers, the Sports Nutrition King.
Okay.
So that's where I get, and I use All Max just because I've tried. You can imagine I've tried a ton of brands, and they seem to blend the best for me, anyways. So and they agree with my system the best. So I use All Max. I do Hexapro twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, and then I'll do the whey protein after every workout. But yeah, that's meal 1 is the Hexapro, the 4 eggs, the oatmeal, 2 bananas. That's meal 1 of 6. And then the rest of the meals are generally all the same. So meal 2, I try and get them about 2 to 3 hours apart. I'll have 8 ounces of boneless, skinless chicken breast, a half a cup of sweet potatoes, and a half a cup of green beans. That's meal 2. The meal 3 is the exact same thing, only with 2 hard-boiled eggs. Meal 4 is the exact same thing without the hard-boiled eggs. Meal 5 is the exact same thing with the hard-boiled eggs. And then meal 6 is the exact same thing without the hard-boiled eggs. And that's my day.
Just to switch it up a little bit.
Just to switch it up and add some extra protein, so it puts me about 350 grams of protein a day. And
Cool.
It's right around it should be 3,600 calories. And then once I start gearing up towards competition, I start adding adding more portion sizes. So I'll go from 8 ounces to 12 ounces of chicken for each meal. So it increases the calorie intake. And then I'll also do the same thing with the sweet potatoes because it increases carbs and calories. So I'll go from a half a cup to a full cup of sweet potatoes with each meal, and that puts me.
And do you cook these the same way every time, or?
I do, about 30 pounds of chicken a week. So I'll take 30 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast, and I'll throw it all in the smoker and I'll let it smoke.
Lewis and I are in the unique people. I think you have to come from the restaurant business to know what 30 pounds of chicken really means. Like,
That's a lot.
it's almost like case of chicken, dude. Like,
Yeah.
restaurant case because they come in 40 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's obscene.
Yeah.
Like, it just.
By myself in 1 week.
Thank you for controlling the chicken population.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I actually made a TikTok about that.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. It's funny because I do these TikTok videos, and one of them, a few of them actually.
So, I mean, like, how do you not hate your life? This is a real question. Like, how hard is this to do? Is this the hardest thing you do?
It's pretty rough. Yeah, it's pretty rough. I mean, it can be.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing about that. Like, I think unhealthy people hate their lives.
I understand. I'm making a joke, but I'm saying, like, how hard is that to do? It's physically hard to do. And, like, forget it. Like, trust me, it's way easier to be unhealthy, man. Like, you're going to enjoy yourself a lot more than eating the same food every day. And, like, that gets very unpalatable after a while, especially once you hit those, like, protein marks and stuff. Like, satiation kicks in, and now you're just force-feeding yourself, like, food your body and mind definitely does not want. That is disgusting at that point. I saw you try to do that back in the day, Lewis, like, with chicken and sweet potatoes and stuff, and you were, like, crying.
I didn't eat oatmeal for years, for a while, just because I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah,
Well, my secret is
I like
you
it
just-
again, but yeah.
Is this a mindset thing? You just determine this is what I'm going to do, and
yes and
you
no.
get through it?
Half mindset, and the other half is my secret is every week I change the marinade.
Ah, there you go.
So I will marinate it in something different every week. So, and then I use I have this.
What are you using for
I'll
marinades?
use teriyaki. I'll use a garlic and herb. I'll use a Caribbean jerk. I mean,
Nice.
there's a plethora of them. Sometimes.
What kind of smoker do you have?
I have a Pit Boss pellet.
Oh,
pellet
nice.
Smoker. So it's
Yeah,
super
I have a Traeger.
Nice. Yeah, Traeger. That's top.
Yep.
Traeger Pit Boss. Those are the top models
Yeah.
right there.
But smoking the chicken automatically makes it better. Like you're not baking it, because baking it's going to be rough. But smoking it automatically is going to be way better. And then you're marinating it. Like I could
Not
see
only-
that.
Not only that, you can change your pellets too. I've got 3 different flavor of pellets
Yeah.
to smoke it.
So why can't you mix it up though? Why can't you do some pork, some steaks, some whatever? It's just easier this way,
Fat
or
content.
cheaper? Like,
I've learned that because of the fat content, I can, if I wanted to change it and do like bison, or if I wanted to do ground turkey, I could do ground turkey or ground chicken. Ground chicken would be the best. Turkey's got a lot of fat. So depending on the calorie intake, and that's one thing that I've learned too, is as I get closer to competitions, and especially in strongman, the higher the fat content, the more calories I get. So I may change that, but as a typical training, for my normal routine, that's the basics of it. I mean, that's the foundation, and then I'll tweak it from there. Like I said, I could change the meat if I want to add beef instead. The beef is going to have higher calorie content than chicken. So once I need to bump that up, if I start dropping weight, because in strongman I got to be above 315 pounds, which isn't. I mean, obviously that's not any time in my near future, But mass moves mass in strongman. So when you do strongman competitions, mass moves mass. They say that because
so what's
that?
What's your
Really
specs?
quick on the fat content, like just to your point, Bear. So if you added, if you swapped that for 85% ground beef or just a regular steak, you're probably adding 8 to 10 grams of fat more per meal. So spread that across 5 meals. Now you added 50 grams of fat. That's almost 450 more calories a day just by swapping in red meat.
Yep.
Where you could be getting that from, you're already getting some fat probably from other sources, and you're trying to limit from your protein intake. I just wanted to cover that for a second and explain the difference.
No, that's perfect. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's exactly spot on. I'm glad you covered that.
Oh,
That's exactly
last thing
what
I'll
it is.
say is, yeah, and while it doesn't, when you're at a level like Bear, the thermogenic effect of food makes a difference too. So like the way your body even digests food, being consistent like this, there's something to it. You know, you're the consistency in weight is way more consistent when you're consistent with your food like this, which is important in a sport like this.
For sure.
So what's your specs nowadays, Barry?
Today I weighed in at 360 pounds, 6 foot 360, and I like to stay right here. I'm actually up about 15 pounds from where I was at my lightest, but I'm putting it back on because I'm slowly working towards a competition coming February. So I like to compete right about 365 pounds, which is only 5 pounds away from where I'm at right now. But here's the catch: is once I start, the further I get into my program, the more calories I'm going to need because I'll start dropping weight again. So I got to change that diet and I start making those substitutes, like you were just saying.
Side question, Bear, really quick. Do you do casein at night? Are you a fan of casein protein?
Absolutely. Yep. And you know where
What's a good one? Because
you know what's a really
after
good place
reading
to get your casein?
Mike Hornsby's book, I'm going to start doing that.
A really good place to get your casein program protein. And this is a little secret I learned, trade secret from an OG powerlifter. So a good place to get your casein.
Is it Joe?
No, it wasn't actually.
Okay.
His name is Herman Lutke. So he told me, and it's a secret I learned, that one of the best places to get your casein protein at night is by eating 1 cup of cottage cheese before you go to bed.
It's almost all casein. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that, and I started looking into.
I like cottage cheese. A little salt, a little pepper. Boom.
I started looking into that. Sure
Cheap
enough,
too.
I'm like, he was right. Yeah.
It's low carb too, right?
Carb, cheap, like pure casein protein.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, since you just said low carb D, how many powerlifters or strongmen do you know that do low carb? Are there any?
Zero.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because
I wouldn't recommend the low carb diet for someone who's a power lifter, and nor does anyone that I follow either.
No, but
low carb diets are good for people that are not going to be that are very sedentary, that want to get healthier, and that's one of the things that you can definitely do. And especially, we've been through this a million times. Sorry to put you through this, Bear. The people that I've always followed and also say get more protein, eat vegetables. It's a low carb, higher protein, eat as much as vegetables as you can. Just overall healthier diet than your standard American whatever that caused you to be obese or whatever in the first place. Mm-hmm. So we talk about the obesity epidemic a lot, and I know you guys figured it out, and we're going to change the FDA models now, and everyone's going to follow.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? When you're in emergency levels, man, you got to get healthy, and that's why I don't demonize quote-unquote fad diets. You're looking at someone who, thrived on a ketogenic diet and completely, turned around their life. And there's obviously unhealthy ways to do everything, but that's why the problem, and, we've also interviewed, neurologists who are research scientists as well, talking about habits and his food and addiction and all that stuff. It's very, very complex thing, and my biggest overall message is get healthy no matter how you do it. You're worth it. This life is short. Going back to the Stoicism, it's one of the biggest oversights in modern society. We're the luckiest people to ever live, period, in this time. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So if one of our most terrible things about all this prosperity is being unhealthy because of our diets and our lifestyle is just horrible. We're missing the point big time in this life and all the opportunities that all of us are given because of young men and women like Bear protecting us. Serious. It's the truth, though. We should be ashamed of ourselves. We talk about the U.S. being the greatest country of all time and blah, 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 blah. Let's get healthy. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Seriously. The statistics get worse every single year. I can't even wait to see what it's going to be after 2021.
Well, especially with people that have been locked up for so long, it's just...
Yeah.
Actually, while we're on the subject, and it's on my mind, because when you were asking me about the mental health and the working out before, this was a thought that I had that I forgot to mention was one of the biggest frustrations I had during the whole lockdown in the pandemic was the fact that they made gyms close their doors, but they kept liquor stores open. And
insane.
It was
Wisconsin.
the biggest backwards thing that I've ever seen in my life. So you're telling people they can't leave their house, but you're closing the gyms and leaving the liquor stores open. You don't expect their mental health to deteriorate. It's like, come on. So it's such a good...
Our priorities as a society are messed up and obviously influenced a lot by money.
Yeah.
So just,
It's like if you want to leave them open, well, leave the gyms open too, because, people need the therapy. And a lot of people, they use it just to get out and have that therapy because it is genuinely good therapy, There was actually some gym members that turned to using alcohol as a coping mechanism because they couldn't go to the gym. They couldn't go to work because their work was from home now. So they're in their house 24/7. Can't go anywhere. Gym's closed. So they turned to start drinking, And they just got so bad. There was so many people. There was a few guys from the gym that started going down that road. And I'm so glad we were able to open up after, I think, 3 months, 3.5 months we were down. And we were able to open it back up. And they came back, thank God, But yeah, it was rough for a lot of people.
No, I'm with you 100%, and that's why. We're at such a weird state in society in our country right now, in politics and like overall health and everything, and it's just gotten so messy and so ridiculous at this point. And that's the problem. Is like this message has not been consistent. Like gyms are closed, and like liquor stores and every other store you could think of to just buy random like nonsense is open and essential, and they missed the mark, and now no one believes anything, and we have lots of problems. So
it's sad.
So Bear, you said you have 4 kids, right? And you're a professional powerlifter and strongman. How do you manage your time? How do you fit all this? Because something that
you're not professional technically, right?
No, I don't have a pro card, not yet.
Okay.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe one day.
So, and then obviously you have dedication to your nutrition. There you go, competitive.
Yeah.
We'll get you back on when you get your pro card.
For sure.
How do you fit all this? Because one thing that a lot of people say is, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to cook. I've got kids. I have family. I have a job. So, do you mind walking us through how you fit this in, and maybe some things that you just cut out that just don't fit in your life? I don't know. How do you get everything that you need to do in your life in 24 hours, including sleep, if you want to go over sleep?
That's the other thing, is I don't sleep very good as it is. But that's neither here nor there. We'll get there. I think the biggest thing is talking about the pro card there. That's probably the sacrifice that I've had to make, is the fact that I haven't been able to go pro because of the time restraints. So because working full-time as a nurse, having kids, having the gym, having to work out, I don't have the time to dedicate, because you have to be able to dedicate yourself X amount of hours to X amount of competitions to go to certain platforms.
What do you think it takes to become pro? Hours a day lifting?
It doesn't take any more than I'm doing right now. What it would take is the ability to travel to competitions, to hit these platforms you need to hit to get your pro card. That's the holdup, because they've got
which would entail going out of state and stuff.
Right, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't afford monetarily or time-wise to be able to do that. So if I could travel to competitions, they got state, national competitions, Ohio, Illinois, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, California, Florida. They just had, the SBD World's Strongest Man.
Listen. I hear they're paying traveling nurses up to like $150 an hour, but we're going to scope out the competitions. We're going to scope out the local hospitals. We're going to coordinate it together. Let's make this happen.
If I could bring the kids with, sure.
Right.
I think that's the biggest sacrifice right there, is because then otherwise it'd be a different story, But that's what you need. But I'm able to balance it right now with what what I have. I've been able to find that. Okay, I go to the gym on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, and from 5:30 till 9, or from 6:30 till 9. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays are my days off that I don't train. Saturday and Sunday, I go. It just depends on the time and what we got going on. So I work Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4 in my full-time job in the clinic. So outside of the clinic, I get off work at 4. Mondays and Tuesdays, the kids are with their mom. So I'll go to the gym at 5:30, and I'll be there till 9, and I'll train. Wednesdays and Thursdays, the kids are with me. I'll take the girls down Wednesday night for the kid class at the gym. But I don't train typically on the Wednesday nights or Thursday nights because the kids are with me. And then we alternate Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Friday night I close every Friday at the gym. So I'm working out there. The kids come with. It's a Friday night, then we'll get school the next day. So if we're up to 9, it's not the end of the world. And like I said, depending on what we got going on Saturday or Sunday, when Anna was playing soccer, my youngest daughter, she had soccer on Saturdays. So I'm not going to go to the gym midday on Saturday because she got soccer. So it would be after that. So it just kind of depends on what's going on the weekend. But I go one of those days. So it's 5 days a week that I get to go. And I've got that schedule worked out. Sundays would be my meal prep day. So that's the day that I'll throw 35 pounds of chicken on the smoker. I'll let it smoke while I cook all the green vegetables and sweet potatoes. So I'll cube all the sweet potatoes, cook them, get all the green vegetables, I'll steam them. I'll get all my containers laid out. The kids are here, they help. It's great. It's great when they help because it saves a lot of time. So we get all those out. By that time, the meat's done. I'll come weigh it all, scale it all, 8 ounces each bin, and case it up and go. So that's typically how my schedule works. But I've been able to find that time. That it took me a while to find that balance to be able to get. This is what I need. This is the schedule I need to have this balance of. Okay, I'm getting the workout time I need to have. My mental health be secure. I'm able to take care of the kids and get them what they need and bring them where they need to go and accomplish whatever we need to do there. And so on and so forth. That's kind of, you just got to kind of play with your time and see what you have. You know that I got to be here at this day, this time, so I got to work around it. If you really want to, you can do it. And the other sacrifices I've made is I don't go out. I don't go out to the bars. I don't go out drink. I don't do any of that. I don't go out and spend time. I don't like crowds to begin with. So crowds of people I've never been a big fan of. So by not going out, never really affected me much. My going out time, my social life is at the gym. I ride my motorcycle, but that's obviously seasonal. I don't ride year round, and I do that on days like I'll take the bike to the gym, or I'll go for an hour and a half with some of my buddies because I'm an American Legion rider, so we ride in parades. So I'll take weekends and we'll go on rides. So that's the only other thing that I do outside of the schedule I told you is I ride my motorcycle. Otherwise, I don't do anything else. It's just doesn't interest me. 39 years old. I'm not a barfly. Just not my scene. I don't want to go spend the money first.
Yeah, neither are either of us.
Right. It's just
so it's just yeah.
I'm a single guy.
Honestly, at this age, I'll just say it's pretty sad. Like if that's your life still, like
right.
You're just going to bars and like that's it.
Well,
and
not only that.
Yeah,
but
don't know many happy people that hang out with bars constantly. Really.
And here's a real big thing with that is if you are a person that likes to go out, which is great, don't expect to get yourself very far in powerlifting or strongman, because if you go out one night drinking, it's going to set you back 2 days lifting.
Yeah.
And that's legit because one, you dehydrate yourself. That takes away from anything. You're killing your diet, so you're not on your diet. You're not working out, and then the next day you're not getting the sleep you need. You're probably not working out the next day because you're hungover. So you go out drinking one night, that'll set you back 2 nights lifting. So that's another thing.
Adds up quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. You go out 2 nights a week. Well, you set yourself back. 3 or 4 nights of working out then.
Yeah.
So
I think the main thing that you're kind of saying is, number one, you're conscious of your time. I think most people aren't even thinking about what they do or planning, what their day, let alone their week is, and meal planning, no chance. You've got a routine. You're conscious of what you need to do to hit your goals. And then the other thing I heard is, you're dedicated to a few different things. Obviously, your job. It sounds like your family, as a family man, and taking care of your kids and stuff and spending time with them. And on top of that, you take care of yourself, which is another thing that I don't think men especially do enough. They sacrifice themselves and everything for work or their families too, and they kind of put themselves last. I think it's, D and I always, I say this often, is if you want to help other people, you've got to help yourself first. You got to take care of yourself first. So yeah, I applaud you for doing that. It's like, I know it's not easy. I have 3 kids myself, full-time job. For me, having a home gym saved me because I can work out. I can roll out of bed and work out. I can work out at night. I work out 4 days a week. So what I tell myself is, all right, there's 7 days in a week. I have to train 4 of those days. Ideally, I want that to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, but I know life is crazy. So if it ends up falling on a different day, totally cool. Even today, today was legs and shoulders for me. I actually I had a really early meeting, so normally I would have more time in the morning to do my entire workout. I only was able to do half my workout this morning, and then I'm going to finish the second half of my training after this podcast. And I'm able to do that because my gym is right downstairs. I can literally go downstairs and finish my sets. And that was a kind of a mind shift thing for me, where when I was younger, if I missed a couple of sets or something, I would just say, forget it. I won't even work out. If I don't have 90 minutes to do my workout, I've only got 45 minutes, forget it, not even worth it. But as I've slowly matured, I know that first, and you said it in the beginning, lifting something is better than nothing. So that 45 minutes is always better than 0 minutes. And then I know also that I can make this up either later that day or the next day. It doesn't matter. My body doesn't know, that I did, these 10 sets this morning. All my body knows is how many sets I did this week, this month, this year, back to volume. And it was a complete mind shift for me. And that's what works for me. I know that I have, this month to train, this many days. And when I think of it that way, then I feel like I have a ton of time to do what I need to do. And I've been more consistent at this age, at 38, than I have at any age, at any point in my entire life. So trial and error, too, like you said.
Yeah, exact same. I think this is the most consistent I've ever been as well. Maybe it is an age thing. I know you talk to developmental theories. Whatever your age range is, kind of puts you in different developmental stages. According to Eric Erickson, that is. But yeah, you have different. Maybe we're just in that developmental stage where this is what it is we have the more consistent pattern, or we're kind of getting into a different pattern, a lifestyle, or whatever it is. Or maybe it's just we've had experiences that have helped us guide us to that point. The nice thing is to be able to get these new clients in. I know we were talking earlier. I just had a brand new client this past Monday. She's 22 years old. So she doesn't have the experience. I've got 39 years. I've been lifting since day one of birth, but I've got a lot of time and experience into the working out and health, fitness, all of it. She's 22 years old. She doesn't have hardly anything. So to be able to kind of show her what I have experienced to kind of help streamline that thought process is one of the driving factors to do that, to help train people. And that's one of the things that makes me like doing it, is just, like I said, to be able to take somebody that's 22 years old, or however old they are, if they're young, 18 to 25, they don't really have that time invested in life to experience these things that I've gone through, so many. And I try to get them over the stuff that I've learned the hard way that I shouldn't do, and show them the things that I've learned that I should do. And that way they can kind of get to where I'm at an earlier age, and maybe they'll be even further. So that's kind of a driving factor, and I do that with my kids too. I know my daughter Lindsay, I just started not long ago teaching her how to bench press and how to do some weightlifting, and I plan on showing her even more in the future. That she's 14, so you can't really get them too far too early. I don't want to push her that hard and change her mindset and thought process on things, but I've got her started. Anna, I've shown her a lot of strongman stuff because I kind of see, their body style, what their temperament's like, and she's more of the strongman type of kid, where she likes to flip tires and move heavy stuff and throw rocks around, and so I show her some of that stuff. But it's a driving factor to be able to train to do that, so it does make it enjoyable. So I like to show them what I've learned, so they don't have to experience the things that I wish I didn't learn.
So, yeah, everything's just pretty incredible. Let's talk numbers. So what are you doing nowadays? Tell us about your last year in competition. Tell us about this asterisk and who the listeners can complain to get you on the official record board. And tell us about the competition coming up in February.
So there's a competition in February, and it's a USPA competition, which is the United States Powerlifting Association competition. It's in Reedsburg, Virginia, so I would like to do that because it's a sanctioned competition. Now, whenever you're going for a state record or a national record, any record that's official, you need to have either state or national certifying officials present. So I did this competition May 7th, this past May. And like I said, you're supposed to have 2 state certifying officials present to qualify your lifts. I didn't have that. We actually had 1 state certifying official there.
Did someone not show up, or?
Yeah, I think there were supposed to be 3. No, there was supposed to be 2. But
if I wasn't so confident that you're going to just break the record that you just said, I'd be super pissed about this. Because it's clearly not you, it's them dropping the ball. And I mean, honestly, it's a joke. I've never even heard stuff like this. You put up a state record and they're not there to officially record it when, especially nowadays, there's witnesses, there's video, there's,
right.
Anyways.
There's a lot of people that were there, and there's a lot of video evidence,
Yeah.
and you'd think that would be good enough, but nope, you got to have that state certifying or national certifying official.
Who takes, I'm sure, a weekend class to become that judge or whatever it is.
It's like a 1-hour online course, probably. Who knows? You know what I mean? Yeah, but you got to have them present. Anyways, for men's open raw bench press, I actually got the unofficial state record. And I say unofficial because I go back to what we just said about having the state certifying officials present. We didn't have them present. So we call it an unofficial record. So it's for my class, for the men's open raw bench press, I have the unofficial record at 555 pounds. So February, this USPA competition, I'm planning on beating that record. And I've talked with Randy Fry at Fry's Family Fitness. I've put a feeler out in a message to him to let him know my intentions. And my intentions are only to come there and do so as long as we have committed state certifying officials. Otherwise, I will find someplace else to test my might. But that's my plan. And I think that's February 6th.
And what are you going to try to put up?
I'm going to try and break 600 pounds.
It's awesome.
I shouldn't say that.
You're already the strongest person I know, Bear, and
I'm not
I
gonna
mean
try
that's.
to do it. I'm going to break 600 pounds. That's going to happen.
Here you go.
There is no try, as a wise philosopher said.
Only do.
Named Yoda.
Yeah, exactly. No try. Only do. Did I get the accent right? Yeah, but no.
You said USPA, right?
USPA, yep.
Okay,
USPA.
that's where my wife has her records.
Is it? Yeah, that's what this one is.
Yeah.
The one, yeah.
With USPA.
You got USAPL, USPA, USA, USF, NASA. There's a few.
What's
This is the biggest-
with
this is
all
the-
the federations?
I
I
know.
don't understand.
Yeah,
that
that's
part.
the biggest problem I
Is it
have
like
with all this.
boxing?
Weight is weight, and it like almost
Yeah.
diminishes
Yeah.
it. Like, I mean,
Is there like
what
a
is this
unification
now?
belt that you can get, like in boxing?
Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
start my own federation, and I'm going to be the record holder.
You can do that. You get the right documents in line. You
I'm
got
going to
it.
compete against like 6-year-olds, and by the time they're 8, they'll be able to beat me. But
Is it just what is it?
You know, it's funny. Like the competition.
it's
that
just money. It's just
Yeah,
money.
that's all it is.
Like, people throw together the
Yeah,
things.
they put together their own federation, and it's almost like how you've got the Arnold Classic.
Mm-hmm.
It's its own thing now, but you can still have
Yeah.
a national record or world record per Arnold Classic standards, or like SBD, World's Strongest Man. Well, you could say, well, I won World's Strongest Man. Well, the federation is SBD. You've also got Giants Live. There's other kinds of strongman. It's the same thing. There's different federations
Sure.
for everything, and some of them are different weights. So the weight that I lifted here would have broke all the state records in Oklahoma. But it would have broke all the state records here, but it would have only broke 2 state records for the federations in like Illinois, for say, because one of them federations has a higher bench press than what I did. So it depends on where you go and what federation is.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people.
So where do you stack up compared to professionals?
I'm right there at the top.
Like,
of the
are you
list.
right there?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I am definitely. I am pro level as far as my pressing power. My strongman, not so much. I'm still developing that. But as far as my powerlifting goes, I stack up right there with the best of them. In terms of pressing, there's really not. I'm up there at the top of the list. It's my overhead pressing with shoulder presses, log presses, bench presses.
So does this get better as you get older, or worse? Like, at some point, are you gonna be like when does it start to fall off? When do people peak in
I'm
this?
sure right around now, between now and the next 3 or 4 years, is where my peak is at. This is where I'm trying to push this 600-pound bench right now. Typically, early 40s is probably about where you'd start to see that taper off, and that's just anatomy, genetics. As you start getting older, especially in males, you hit 40 years old, your testosterone levels start to decrease. Your joints, your ligaments, your tendons, everything they can't.
But your beard keeps your testosterone at super levels.
Oh, yeah,
More than yeah.
Even if you look at
So
my beard,
so
your
you're
testosterone
from what
is-
I understand, you're
What's that?
you're drug free, right?
Yes, I am. I'm natural.
Or natural? What's the classification?
It's natural, raw, natural, open men's is what I do. But
So what's your opinion on steroids?
well, it depends on. I know, like, I've done my research, and I think from our talking here, that when I say I did my research, I've done my research. And honestly, when we talk about getting older for males, for once, like we were just saying, you get older, your testosterone levels start to go down. So it takes that peak away. So you just lost your peak. I know a lot of guys will get on like a testosterone supplement or some kind of testosterone boost. They'll take testosterone cypionate or testosterone NF8, different types of testosterones that help increase those levels. Now, depending on how they check their levels, some of them take it just to keep them at a normal range. And I don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? There's no issue with that. If they're trying to keep their...
Yeah, I hear. I mean, like, from the stuff that I've learned, like, that's kind of the way to go as you age. And obviously, competition, this gets way more nuanced. But for overall health, there's nothing wrong with it. As a matter of fact, I don't know why everyone doesn't do it. Like, me and Lewis have discussed this. Once you get to the point where you need it, it seems like the biggest no-brainer of all time.
Like females,
But it's something that I want to learn much more about in the future. And I like, by all accounts, don't see the problem with it. And once upon a time, I grew up a huge baseball fan, the whole steroids era and whatever. I was super pissed because a bunch of records got broken. And I was one of those dorks that like stats and whatever. And my opinion has changed like 1,000,000% on this. And, just it seems like as you get older, like you're just dumb if you're not doing this. Like, don't you? It's almost like the closest thing we have to like a fountain of youth, more or less,
Really?
right? Because I mean, this is something that you used to have that now is gone, and like magically by science today, you could still have it.
Absolutely, and that's like I'm saying, that's something I don't have an issue with. If they're talking with their doctor and their doctor is saying, okay, well your testosterone level is 200, which is low. Normal testosterone level range should be between 400 and 1,000. So if you're 45 years old and you're trying to work out and you're losing motivation, you're losing endurance, you're losing muscle, you're losing strength, and you find out your testosterone's in the 200s, and you want to get on testosterone injections to keep it around 600, 700, have at it. You should be doing that, because it's going to improve your overall mental health. It's going to improve your endurance, your stamina, your strength. It's going to keep it where it's supposed to be, And then, like I was just saying, is they're going to say a second ago, if you look at in terms of females when they go through menopause, or even when females go through hysterectomy, they have to be on long-term
Estrogen.
No, it's the female hormone, it's the estrogen. It'd be the same thing in males. You need to be.
And I just heard a podcast. They're talking about how that's like wonderful for like females and really helps with like everything and overall health as they age.
It'd
And
be the same in males. And a common misconception that people think is that is steroids, when in fact it's not. That's testosterone. It's a hormone replacement. So in that route, I would say have at it. By all means, you should have your level where it should be. Now, that being said, when you talk about guys that lift at professional levels, like at the world's strongest man level, those guys are not steroid free. They're on testosterone for sure. Every single one of them is on a testosterone supplement, regardless of their age, because they want their levels over 1,000. And they're taking some type of steroid base. And when I say steroid, I'm talking either they're taking DECA, they're taking Trenibol, they're taking a human growth hormone, one of those supplements.
Deer antlers.
Some kind of performance enhancement drug. But they're taking those combined. Testosterone plus one of those, and that's the steroid. And those are the things that cause problems. And that's what I'm like, I don't compete against them. Would I? Yeah, I would. If I had the opportunity, sure, absolutely. Would I have a chance? Not natural. There's no way. You can't, To get to that level, to be a professional, to win World's Strongest Man, there's absolutely no way on the planet, no way that you could do it natural. There's not one chance, and that's what people don't understand. They're like, no, they can't be. No, they can't be. They're tested. Yeah, they are tested. I'll give them that. You know what? They tell them what they're testing.
Why the facade though? Why are we shaming it then? Like, this just is what it is. And honestly, what the hell? Like who wants to see just as a spectator and stuff? If people can do this and they're willing to do it, no offense, I admire the natural stuff, but why would we want to watch people lift less weights when there's people lifting more? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what happened in bodybuilding with all
I understand, but why is it still this
because
ridiculous
America has this thing.
They're getting tested.
America has this thing about cheating. Mm-hmm. Americans don't cheat. Russians cheat.
Yeah, right.
Even though when we beat the Russians, we were doing drugs too.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But Americans don't cheat. So therefore,
the best story ever. Yeah. Ben Johnson from Canada gets his gold taken away, and Carl Lewis gets the gold. And Carl Lewis was also on steroids.
Yeah. But don't you remember Barry? Did you ever see the documentary Bigger, Faster, Stronger?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So the best quote ever when Barry Bonds was like, "You're talking the difference between a $40,000 contract and a $40 million contract. What would you do?"
Absolutely.
So I mean, every professional athlete. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the whole NFL. I mean, especially now, you're not competing in that league if you're not on steroids.
Terrell Owens didn't look like that by doing crunches during press conferences.
And I tell people this too when they're like, well, there's no way they could be on. They test, and the way they get around that is they tell them what they're testing for. They say these are what we're testing for. So those are the things you don't take. If they say, oh, we're testing for DECA. Well, then you take Trenibol, So they tell you what they're testing for, so that when you take the test, you could say, well, he didn't pop positive on the test. It showed that he wasn't taking it. Well, he wasn't taking what you tested for. But again, to be a professional, there's no way. There's no way that you're going to be a professional and get to that level without taking something. And, you know, if that's what...
Does anyone even claim it?
Yeah, there are some that try, but it's like... And there's people that believe them because they don't know. They haven't done the research on it. But if you're going to be at that level, have at it. You know, if that's the level you want to be at, if that's what you want to do with your life, if you want to be the world's strongest man, if you want to be world champion, at, you know, have the biggest bench press or the world record for squat, world record for deadlift, whatever. If that's the route you want to go and you want to be a professional at it, then by all means, have at it because it's fun to watch. I love to watch it. You know, I love seeing that.
Yeah.
Is it something that I'm going to get into? No, it's not because
my biggest issue is people have no problem drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, eating junk food, doing hardcore drugs, like no problem at all.
We're the most unhealthy populace of all time. We're worried about powerlifters doing steroids.
But a drug that enhances you, it makes you better, somehow is worse than all those other things. Like that's the only and the judgment behind it. You know, you're out drinking with your buddies. And they're talking crap about the athlete that does steroids. Like, how does he put that in his body? What a scumbag. And it's like, guys, it doesn't really make sense. But, yeah.
That's why, like, at this point, it needs to be talked about more. There needs to be the athletes need to be like, this is just ridiculous. Like, especially, the only sport where I see the issues would be is fighting. Yeah.
Well,
because now you're talking about, like, you kill other people, and if it's not a level playing field, like, there's whatever. But like every other sport,
but there was the TRT era
at the highest level, and now like you just have to be so naive to believe that they're not like the Tour de France. Like we're talking about cycling. Like the only reason why anyone in this country knows anything about the Tour de France is like Lance Armstrong originally, and when he got popped and all those people, they said that you had to go something like ridiculous, like 16th down the line to find somebody who wasn't on steroids. And that's cycling, man.
No,
like, think about every other professional sport where there's big money involved.
At GNC, I ran into an amateur cyclist, and he told me that all the amateurs dope. The amateurs. Because you just have to, he said.
You do. You have to.
It's one of like those.
You have to.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to. And, you know, if I had the opportunity and ability, if I had that time and that funding that we talked about, I'm sure I would too. I would be more than happy to, because it would put you at a different level.
So I was going to ask, so would you do it, like just to be able to compete? And what is the actual risk? Because they are taking risks at that point, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
When you're doing...
There are health factors involved. Like you, when you start talking about taking human growth hormones, for instance, you're looking at enlarging not only just your muscles, but it enlarges all the organs in your body as well, all your tissues,
and like your skull, right? Your face, like
your bone structure can grow, but most importantly, your heart grows, and that's not a good thing.
So you get what they call cardiomegaly, which is an enlarged heart. So you go into premature heart failure. You know, so those are some of the risk factors that are involved. Is there a chance that you could do it without having that? Sure, but it's slim. So
is human growth hormone? I don't know if you're qualified to answer this, but is it also similar to steroids, where if you take the amount that your body's losing as you age, you can just mitigate it?
Human growth hormone is different. It's something that you put that you use human growth hormone as your body's developing, so your body produces it naturally. When you add anything outside of what your body has already produced, that's unnatural. It doesn't lose anything. It doesn't gain any more throughout the course of your life.
But we don't lose human growth hormone as we age, like we lose testosterone?
It stops, because once you reach that age of
maturity,
you don't produce it anymore. And that's why you have guys you have, let's say you got Andre the Giant. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
So his body never stopped producing it because he had an abnormal growth on his pituitary gland. And
Bear, correct me if I'm wrong, but steroids creates an anabolic environment. Human growth hormone doesn't create an anabolic environment. It literally is growing tissue.
Yes.
You're growing.
Dude, I want to hit 72 home runs. I don't know what you guys
You're literally growing more
now.
tissue with human growth hormones. You're not building muscle, but people will do both, right? So now you have more tissue, and now you're in an anabolic environment, so you're doing both. So human growth hormone is not building you muscle, but organs, literal tissue. Like
Well,
that's what that does.
You build muscle, but you build everything, including muscle.
Yeah.
Your organs are larger, your muscles are larger, everything is larger, and that's the problem. Is it also increases your heart size. And that's one of the biggest things is that everything is larger.
The one issue I do have with steroids, and this just has to do with social media, is that all the people that you see on social media, first of all, are on performance-enhancing drugs, and that's why they look the way they look. Mm-hmm. And now there are more young people that are on steroids than ever before. So to do something that enhances you before you even reached your peak, I think that's what's wrong with performance-enhancing. And this is just my opinion, but if you're going to take a performance-enhancing drug, that's because you've pretty much reached your peak. Mm-hmm. You've met your potential, or pretty darn close to it. And now to get to the next level, you're going to do something, but because you need to be a world champion or a professional athlete, whatever. But now there's like 18, 19-year-olds that are just starting to lift, and they're on some kind of crazy stack, and they're like on year one of lifting. Right. That's pretty dangerous. And on top of it, you're like a teenager. So
yeah, honestly, it shouldn't even be a thought in your mind about taking any of it until at
right.
minimum mid-30s. Minimum.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't even be a thought.
And have been lifting and have built a lot of muscle and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. Because it stops your body from, like, when you start taking testosterone supplements, for example, it stops your body from producing its own. But like when you start hitting that mid-30, early 40s, your body already starts to stop producing. It slows its production down. So, like I said, that's when you start to think about taking it as a replacement therapy. You start taking it in your 20s, well, you're going to have to be on it the rest of your life.
Yep.
Because now your body's going to stop making it naturally. But
that's what they don't realize either.
Right. You start taking other things on top of it. You stack testosterone with your D-ball or your Trenin ball, or you stack it with whatever you stack it with. Not only is your body now not producing it naturally, but now you're causing this abnormal growth, and it's going to cause harder work on your heart, which is the biggest thing that causes premature heart failure, arrhythmias, all types of problems down the line. So you start taking it early, you're increasing all those risk factors. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Wait until your mid-30s if you have a thought process. Unless you are planning and have an active sponsor to be a professional at it, don't even have it be a thought in your mind until you get down the road.
Yeah, I agree. Unless there's gazillions of dollars at stake, which is,
right.
Like the mainstream professional sports. And even then, like, hopefully you're smart enough to have some of the best people in the world administering it,
Right.
And
Bear, do you do your own blood work or anything like that?
I do.
What kind of health monitoring do you do?
I check it all the time. Actually, I do every 6 months, and I just had it done actually 2 weeks ago. So every 6 months.
All right.
How you looking? Huh? What's under the hood?
Actually, yeah, great.
Yeah. So here's the thing, because you're 350, 360. And, like, obviously you're probably the healthiest version of that. But is it still healthy to be that big? Like, are you sure? Because I questioned you on this the last time. I'm worried about you, man.
You can debate it. You can debate it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Is it healthy? Where I'm at, yes, it is. Is it a risk? Yes, it is. But because I manage it, because I'm active and I'm not sedentary 350, does it cause an extra workload for my heart because of my larger mass? Yes. So because I have more mass, I have more workload on my heart. But I exercise my heart. I do cardio. I weight lift 5 days.
So what's the blood work at?
The blood work's great.
What do you check?
I check vitamin D. I check a basic chem level, so I know my sodium, my potassium, my magnesium levels. I check a CBC, which is a complete blood count. I do my A1C, vitamin D levels, vitamin B12. They do testosterone checks on me. The only thing that I've had come back low was my vitamin D level 2 weeks ago, and I just.
Well, that's because you live in Wisconsin.
Exactly, in this winter time.
Hey, listen to this.
So what's really quick? What's your testosterone
It
at?
was 420 something. Yeah, 427.
Yeah.
So even at
So is that low for like a power
it's
lifter?
No.
it's on the lower
Okay.
end of the scale, but it's in range.
Yeah, so what I understand from that, Bear, is you mentioned this earlier. The normal range for a male is between 400 and 1,000, but somebody at 650 and somebody at 450, both are equally as normal because the biology is so different between those two males. So it doesn't mean that the person at 450 necessarily is doing worse than the person at 650.
Okay. I was just going to ask, so like, is there like an ideal
No.
number or like a maximum
And from
number?
my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bear, no, every human is so different. So, like, again, 450 for you could be perfectly normal, and that's where you're supposed to be, and 700 is perfectly normal for the guy next door. And one necessarily is not going to do better or worse. You know, there's a lot of other factors. Now, you know, if you're at 1,000, naturally, you're kind of gifted, but, like,
yeah, for sure.
That's like LeBron.
Yeah, naturally 1,000. Yeah. 9,000 actually for your Dragon Ball Z fans.
Born with a six pack. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey Bear, I've been doing a lot of research. So I've read a couple of books on testosterone, really fascinating. But I've also been doing research on. I'm also fascinated on cholesterol. And the next time I do my blood work, we'll see if my doctor does it. But I'm going to ask him to do my ApoB for cholesterol. Have you heard of this?
I have heard of it. I haven't had mine done, but I have heard of it.
Okay, so there's LDL, right? The bad cholesterol, and forever people think that that's the marker of risk of heart disease and all that stuff, right? And there's more debate about it over the past 5 to 10 years on is that the marker of future heart risk, right? Is LDL true or not? And there's a lot of debate about it. There's a protein inside of LDL called ApoB. It's a long word. I can't pronounce it. And by the way, I'm going to give you a horrible layman explanation for it. But it seems that ApoB is a much truer marker of heart disease than all of LDL. The LDL is just too general of a marker to look at. That the ApoB marker, which is again a protein of LDL, is actually a better indicator of heart disease. And, you get higher ApoB from lots of saturated fat and blah, blah, blah. There's debate on that too. But the next time I get my cholesterol check, I'm actually going to ask for that because I guess you technically could have a higher LDL level, but it's not necessarily telling you that you're as at risk as you would think you would be. It's really that individual protein within the LDL. I'm going to read more about it, but I was just curious if you heard about it.
Yeah, I have.
So basically, we figured out the new way to get healthy and the truth about cholesterol in this podcast. So we're on a roll.
This is an all-star episode.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Bear,
Guys.
I've done my own blood work a bunch of times, but I'm going to see if my sometimes doctors don't do everything you ask them to. Maybe you have a really good. Yeah, so I've done my own.
I was going to ask, where do you get your blood work, and what does it
Well,
entail?
because I am
Like, do you go to a
veteran,
special
I use
lab or?
VA, so I've got.
Nice.
Okay, and you're a nurse too, so you know people, huh?
Yeah,
You got a couple phlebotomist friends,
Yeah,
couple
there you
lab
go.
tech friends, and
and I tell my provider what I want checked, because they will, unless you have complaints or unless anything changes with your medical history, when they go in for your either semi-annual or annual checkups, they will run a basic panel. So they'll do a basic chem, they'll do a CBC, and maybe an A1C. But that's it. So unless you're having complaints or on specific medications that'll change your numbers outside of that, they won't check anything else because there's no need.
Yeah.
Unless you're complaining.
They'll even
about
push
something.
back on testosterone.
Yeah, they won't check that unless you bring it up. But see, I obviously I know a thing or two about a thing or two, so I tell them I want my vitamin D checked, I want my vitamin B12 checked, I want my CBC, I want Chem A, I want A1C, I want testosterone. You know what I'm saying? I go down a list, and they put it all on there. And if they come back and they say, "Well, why do you want this checked?" I just give them the generic reason why, because I just tell them why we would run it. Well, because I don't have any energy. I want to see where this is at.
Right.
But
I'm itchy.
Yeah, right.
all right, guys, we're over the 2-hour mark right now, and this is
Probably
what I
go another
suggest we
couple.
do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no end in sight here, and got to get the kids to bed over there. So let's do this again, and let's definitely. I want to do it after your competition, and maybe we'll do one like early in the year too, with you and other people that are competing. Some of the other Mount Sinai boys, and we want to get Alex on here and Ivan and other people you guys suggest. And this is right up our alley. And I knew Lewis was going to love you as a guest, and. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Welcome,
Anything specific you got coming up besides competition you want us to promote? And we'll post where to find you on TikTok and Instagram.
Bear.vet on TikTok. Instagram's just my name, Derek DeFranco. But nothing specific. I stick with the gym at Mount Sinai. You know, I do my powerlifting and strongman out of that base, and
you coach people?
I coach people, so if there's anybody that's looking for training, come on down and ask for me. I always tell people that if they want training, I can do one-on-one training with them. But if they don't get a gym membership, they can't go to the gym if I'm not there with them training. So they could pay me for training sessions, or they can get a gym membership, get 2 free training sessions, and then they can pay me for training outside of that if they want. Or they can just go to the gym.
And the gym membership's super reasonable. It's a super cool gym. If you're anywhere near southeastern Wisconsin, definitely check it out. Mount Sinai Gym in Racine. And we'll post that as well.
What about the people listening, Bear? What life advice or health advice someone looking to get started, someone maybe he's got some anxiety or trying to improve their lives somehow? You mentioned some things that work for you, but where should someone start?
Well, I think the biggest place to start with is one foot in front of the other. I mean, there's so many different coping mechanisms out, healthy and unhealthy. There's so many out there. And I know a lot of people struggle with, mental health is a big thing these days. And a lot of people have anxiety about just stepping foot inside of a gym because of an intimidation factor. And if I could give one piece of advice to people that are just trying to get their feet moving, my advice is just give yourself one opportunity to go into a gym, one opportunity to go in there and just feel the environment. Do whatever you want to do. Go in there and pick up a dumbbell and walk around holding the dumbbell, if that's whatever you want to do. Just start somewhere, because you're going to realize that when you leave, you're going to feel better than when you went in there. And I get the anxiety part of it, because there's a lot of apprehension. There's a lot of anxiety. The intimidation's big, especially for females. It is a lot bigger because they feel judged a lot more, because it's been such a big, fad growing up. That this is the image that you need to project. It's been a lot harder on females than it has been males. Just because of the body image. So there's a bigger intimidation factor on their end from stepping foot in the gym. They don't want that judgment. They don't know where to start. They don't know what they're doing. So I say talk with a trainer. Come on down. If you're in the area, come down to Mount Sinai. We'll give you a free tour. We'll start you out. But just get in there, because, it's the best choice you'll ever make. It's mental health. It's physical health. And once you get through that very first initial entrance into the gym, get through that first workout, it's all downhill from there. You're going to feel better. You're going to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Great advice, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I can't wait to do this again. And thanks for coming on, brother. Thanks for your service, by the way.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You're welcome, and thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate you.
All right, I'm going to hit stop right now, Bear, and then just wait until it uploads, okay? You'll see it on your computer.